fall night here in New York, and wherever you are, welcome. This is my first live stream, so it's kind of uncharted territory in a sense, but I'm happy to be here and happy to have you all joining me. I'm going to start by just doing a little bit of playing, and after that, hopefully that'll invite some questions. Basically, questions are going to drive this, and if you type questions into the comments field, I can see them and put them on the screen and then discuss what's on your mind. So let's get right to it. So that's the first couple of verses of a tune of mine called "Losing Summer" from my "Some Quiet Place" album, which goes back to 1999. But that's pretty challenging. It's all up in the altissimo, and I kind of like to play it to invite discussion to that and just get everything warmed up. So let's see what's going on the comment board. Nancy, I absolutely write my own music. Part of this social media push is to announce and prep my new album, which is going to come out on October 23rd. The album is called Higher, and it's 10 original compositions, all of which I wrote. All my albums going back, American Beauty, The Rhythm, Traveler, even back to the Warner Brothers record, Some Quiet Place. The majority of that music, vast majority of that music is written by me. So I'm like, the thing you get out of me is full featured in that sense. I write the music, play the music, organize the tracks. Usually I'm involved in the production, so it's a whole bunch of me that you're getting. But anyway, short answer is I do write my own music. Let's see who else is here. Hey Daniel, how are you? Hey Javier. Hi Barbara. So it's interesting. I've got saxophone players, jazz fans, members of my family, and who else? Funny. Hello, Antonio. How are you? Hello, Jazzy. All right. Oh, cool. So Javier Ramirez says he learned so much when he transcribed this track, and it's pretty challenging. Like negotiating the altissimo in a melodic way is a real study, and without getting deep into the weeds on saxophone playing, if that's what you're referring to, Javier, I'm happy that you got a lot out of that study and out of transcribing that track. So, hey Hector, my mom is here. Hi Mom. Hey Hector, Vinny, how are you, man? Hey Kevin, I think Some Quiet Place is on Spotify. It was the last time I checked. So like revisit that, and if you don't see it on Spotify, definitely hit me up because it absolutely should be there. So the last time I looked at my account, I saw the album art for that album. So I'm hoping it's available, but definitely let me know if it's not. All right, my good friend Kent Smith, who plays on my new record, great trumpet player, and we also did the Rolling Stones together. So good to have an old friend here. What's happening, Kent? Who is the inspiration of my next album? What does Higher refer to? From my sister. Fantastic question. So higher, it's really about striving. It's really about propelling yourself forward and just trying to be better. So I at this stage in my game, I didn't have any desire to really change the artistic impression of what I do. I like the way these records have come out, the last 3 records, and the way that they're stylized. But I did say to myself, hey, you just got to try to be better, right? And wherever that leads you, be a better player, practice harder, practice more, critique yourself more harshly in a way as a songwriter and record producer, and just try to push your art forward. So that's kind of the inspiration of the title. It doesn't refer, it's not about a mountaintop or what I was doing when I was in my junior year of high school or anything like that. So it's about aspiration, basically, and motivation and pushing yourself to higher goals. So, all right, Eric, Nick, Pedro, what's up? Philip is in Sweden. Awesome. Love Sweden. I love Sweden. Love Stockholm. Joshua, my nephew, is here. Peter Baumgartner, my good friend from Abu Dhabi and now Zurich. What is my most memorable and or treasured musical experience? Well, so Peter is a very big Paul Simon fan, so he's asking a leading question. I have many memorable experiences, but I would say being part of Paul's band, writing records, doing all that kind of stuff is very important and memorable. But being next to, like, an icon, like a living legend of popular music, and working with him, and being able to work with him for 2 decades, like not getting fired, and managing to stay in his band for 20 years, and play all over the world with him and learn a tremendous amount from him. Interestingly, I mean, Paul is not a technical musician. He's not. He certainly knows things about music, but he's not a highly technical musician. But from a taste point of view, and like from the unrelenting critique of self point of view, he's a genius. And I learned an unbelievable amount from him. The reason that I like my recent records, that I think that they're good and much better than my earlier ones, is basically what I learned from Paul. So, Scott, how are you, man? You're looking good too, brother. All right, Nick. Mark DiNardo. All right. So, Mark, you're going to have to correct me. Mark either works at NASA or has something to do with NASA. He's literally a rocket scientist. And we went to grade school and junior high school together. So great to see you here, Mark. And, I'm not even going to try to talk to you about what you do, because it's just like, 8 miles above me, right? But great to see you here after all these years. Nancy West, is there anyone I'd like to work with in the future? That is an awesome question. I wish I had been able to play with Prince. That's not going to happen in the future, obviously, not in this terrain. But I don't know if I've got a straight answer for that at the moment. It's not something that I think about or have been thinking about recently, but I'm going to roll that around in my head, and maybe on next week's stream, I'll have an answer for you by then. So, all right, Pedro, what's up, Pedro? How are you, man? David, good to see you. Thank you very much. Doing my best. My nephew Josh, would I be up for a Snitzer collaboration? Yeah, it's a somewhat tragic duo title, maybe from the roll off the lips point of view, but I'd absolutely be up for it. Hey, Skip, how you doing? Philadelphia brother. Wow, Wendy Metzger. So okay, good to see you too. Wendy and I were roommates, a long time ago. We'll leave it at that, but that's fun. Hey, Jamie, thank you very much. Jamie's a saxophone player. Great to have you here. And saxophone players, if you got any questions about saxophone playing, we can definitely get in those weeds. That's no problem. So, tonight on future streams, I'm gonna get more high tech and get better at this and introduce backing tracks, and I'll play along with backing tracks and that kind of thing. And that's down the road. The purpose of tonight is really to just get my feet wet and work this platform and see what it's all like. So anyway, if saxophone players, if you've got any technical questions, just hit me. That's all good. Mark, what's another instrument that you haven't played that you'd like to try collaborating with? That's a good question. I haven't played with. I haven't really thought about that, Mark, but that's it might be cool to do something off the top of my head with a cellist, because that's kind of a deep tessitura and also a really resonant and beautiful and soulful instrument. And my brother Fred plays, but I don't think he's going to get that thing out of the closet and collaborate with me. So that's possibly get a cello involved. I'll roll that around my head. That's an excellent question. Two good questions about things that I just never think about. So thank you for that. Hey, Liz, how are you? Hey, Pedro, what's up from Brazil? So anyway, definitely follow the Instagram, my Instagram account, follow the YouTube page. I'm going to be putting up videos about a bunch of different stuff, like technical videos about saxophone playing or jazz improvisation. I'm going to definitely do videos about career and kind of just existential ideas about being a musician or following your dream, whatever it happens to be. I'll be getting to that stuff in due course, but that'll be on the official YouTube channel. And all these videos will probably also end up populating Instagram and Facebook, and just come and say hi sometimes. It's easy to get lonely at this time, so it'd be great to hear from people. All right. Hey, Joseph, thank you. Hey, Adrian, got Philly people. That's awesome. Javier, can I talk about the link between my huge sound, how it's proportionate with the amount of effort you're putting into generating your airstream? Few players like you and Ed Kaye do this. Okay, so that's a super good question. And I'm going to get into this a little bit and play a little bit. So Javier, the answer is that it's all about the delivery of air and proper delivery of air, and then getting everything out of the way of that. It's not about blowing hard, right? So my sound is not a function of blowing. It's basically like the air is like it's like a fire hose, and that's on, and there's something blocking it. You remove what's blocking it, and so this just column of air just goes bam, right? Like out of you, up through the horn. And that's true whether you're playing loud or soft. So I'll just demonstrate between what I just did and what I want to do. So it's not about how loud I'm playing, right? Or how soft I'm playing. It's about that air coming out of me, open throat, loose embouchure, just delivering the air to the reed with as much, proper, we're getting into the weeds, proper delivery and force, and having nothing in the way, not your throat, not your lips, constricting your mouthpiece, just hitting the reed with that solid air. That's where the sound comes from. Honestly, that's it. When I'm playing like super loud, like it's just the air, not anything that I'm doing to force it or force the loud sound. Okay, that's enough of that. Hey, Billy, Andrew Yoon. Michael Brecker said the day he discovered the melodic minor, his life was changed. Is there a concept that has similar effect on you? That's interesting. So from a harmonic point of view, I would have to say something similar. I mean, the melodic minor, sure. I guess really, I don't know if it was on a single day, but basically like breaking apart the 5 chord and the melodic minor and the diminished scale and all the places that can lead you, and the augmenting scale. But basically like taking the 5 chord, moving stuff around, patterns and shapes around by minor thirds, by major thirds, the whole 5 chord thing, and just busting that up with crazy weird approaches to harmony was a life changer. So I totally understand. I understand what Mike meant. I'm assuming he was referring to the melodic minor as it applies, like, C sharp melodic minor over a C7 chord, that kind of thing. So I'm assuming he meant that, that's a 5 chord thing. So, all right. Hey, Doug. So guitarists Doug's question is, hey, Andy, how much, if at all, have guitarists influenced your playing? So enormously. And like, basically I was a kid that like John Coltrane and Mike Brecker, Dave Sanborn, and Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix. So, like I was just messing around with it when I was playing before, all that. That's all kind of guitar stuff, or this kind of hammer-on stuff that I like to do. It's a little rough around the edges, but all that kind of stuff is. That's all guitar stuff, obviously. So guitar players had a big, the whole rock music thing intersecting with the jazz thing is kind of definitional for me, Doug. So, Skip, love the nuances at the end of each note. Yeah, so that's a huge thing that I get into, man. Like just little throwaway stuff is kind of, again, definitional on my inflection set, and that's just something that I came to way early, my teens and 20s, and I think it's probably, again, really related to the blues and the rock thing, to being expressive in those kind of ways, but it's just become signature part of me. Here's Joseph. Hey, Joseph, how are you, man? I've always noticed that you usually have your neck strap positioned low. What is the reason behind that? It goes against everything every teacher I've ever had told me. Okay, so I mean, basically, like, so as I perceive it, this is kind of like it's kind of a mid spot, a little bit downstream, but you know what? The truth of it is, really, like, the position of your neck and the position of your neck strap is actually, like, in the end, kind of an artistic choice. So everyone knows the whole David Sanborn thing, right? Like his bout with his fight with polio as a kid and all that. So he ends up like this. I mean, that the way he had to hold the horn is just like it's completely central, like involved, probably like the genesis of his style, because he was kind of forced to hold the horn that way. So I view it like, so that's one extreme, right up here, and then the other extreme would be kind of like a Texas thing, right? And everything in between. And so I kind of, I move around a lot, and I use the angle of my mouthpiece and neck, compared to my mouth and face as an artistic idea, tool, an artistic device, basically. So I think at the end of the day, like, and not to say anything about any teacher, like, you got to find that spot, find the one that's right for you. Like where I am is absolutely where I should be in those terms, in those angles. It's like it unlocks me. So I don't even know if it's low or high or mid or whatever, but I think you've got to find that spot that you like, that you feel free, and that'll be the angle that you play at, and then you can move around from there in terms in finding ways to express yourself. So here's Jamie. Okay, the split tones on tenor. So right, the F sharp on alto. So I mean, I don't really get them like Mike used to get them on high B and B flat, and I don't really, that doesn't really happen so much. But I kind of do. I do a Sanborn thing, but down here, like lower down on the horn. So it really comes out on A on the tenor, and sometimes on G, but it's really note dependent, and it's that angle thing, and it's the open throat. So that thing that happens on alto on the F sharp, I don't think that really happens on tenor anywhere in that same way. That's a really distinct alto thing. But you can mess around on the tenor and other, for me, other ranges of the horn, and I can get some split notes going. I mean, it's also reed dependent, but it's definitely about the open throat thing, right? Super open throat, and then messing around with the angle of the mouthpiece as it's coming into your mouth. Head shaking. Let's see. Hey, Jesse, been listening to you for years. Keep jamming. Thank you, brother. Right. So my head, Scott Solomon says, it's interesting how much your head moves when you articulate. And yeah, I don't really know what that's about. I remember being on an incredibly fun gig with Bob Malik, somewhere on the East Side, just a bar gig, like a blues gig. And it was the two of us in a rhythm section, and we had a ball. But at some point in the night, he kind of looked over at me and he said, like, "What are you doing? You know, like, what are you doing, man?" And I have no answer. I'm not looking at myself when I play. So it's kind of like the body responding to the effort to make sound and introduce inflections that the ear and the mind want to. When I see that stuff going on in playback, it's kind of odd, I have to say, but it's, is what it is. Right. So is Javier, what are your favorite tracks to listen to or transcribe for that Texas tenor sounds cool? I mean, I don't know about particular tracks, but like, Arnett Cobb, I mean, depending on the kind of thing you like, he was one of my favorites. And, there are a bunch of people that you can listen to, but if I'm just going to say one guy quickly, I'd say Arnett for me. What Jesse Fox, Brunner, is it Jesse? Hope that's right, man. Sorry if it's not. What's my setup? So this is a Jody Jazz DV 7-star Rico Orange Box 4 reed. Nothing fancy. And I've been playing on this setup for a really long time, and it kind of, like, I like it because I can do all that kind of loud ass shit I was just doing, and also so you can go from that to, and that's all happening on one mouthpiece and one reed. I really like that. I don't really like changing equipment like crazy. So this is kind of a middle ground setup. It leans a little bit to the brighter side, but I can definitely, I can play bossa nova on this setup. It's not legit Stan Getz really, but it sounds plenty good and dark and stylistic. So Antonio, Andy, you have an alto six with you. You have an alto sax with you. I do, but it's in the closet and the reed is dry. So I'll tell you what, I'll get that for you next week. I'll play the ride out to American Beauty. And if you come back next Wednesday, we'll hit that live. All right, cool. Scott Solomon, it's almost like you're on top of the mouthpiece instead of level. Yeah, I mean, maybe so. Maybe so. It's hard to say. It's really just about like delivering that. What feels good to deliver that column of air, like just from the diaphragm driven out of me, nothing in the way. And I'm going to think about all these observations and come back next week, and I'll have some more intelligent things to say about them. But hey, Francois, how are you, my friend? Thank you very much. Yeah, the Eagles are having a tough year, Scott. I agree with you, brother. Here's Andrew Yoon. If I had to pick 3 transcriptions that were most beneficial to your understanding of detailed nuance and style, what would they be? It's such a good question. Well, look, I mean, so a very influential thing early on was Dave Sanborn on David Bowie's Young Americans. Like I wore that out, right? It had been out. That had been in the air for a few years when I found it. I was just too young to know it when it first came out. But when I found it, it just blew my mind. I mean, it's kind of like it's a textbook. It's a primer on inflection set for rock and pop music. And I would say basically, like, I don't know if I'd pick 3 transcriptions, but I'd just say, like, if you listen to Dave Sanborn and Mike Brecker play pop solos from that era, like you listen to Mike Brecker on Donald Fagen's The Night Fly, I mean, that's it. It's everything is there. It's like literally that you need go nowhere else. So that's a shop worn thing to say in a way, but those 2 guys kind of like they were there at the right time. They were full of talent, right? And they basically figured out how to move the saxophone, and they had influences, of course, and references, but they really moved it into a proper place in rock and pop music as it emerged in the 60s. Well, I'm sorry, really in the 70s. But I mean, that's my feeling, at least, about it. They really kind of rearranged what it meant to play in those styles with the saxophone. Skip Spratt, how are you going back and forth with voice and tenor audio wise? Very balanced and no dropout. I have no idea. We kind of just messed around with like an input level on the mic and distance from the mic, and I'm playing over in this direction. So awesome that it's balanced. There is no compressor on the channel. I played that. Have you, Scott? Greg Navin says, "Who's your favorite neighbor?" Greg Navin says, "Who's your favorite neighbor?" The answer is Greg Navins is my favorite neighbor. Hey, Greg. Bruner, thank you, brother. Thank you for correcting me. Hey, Adrian. Yeah, I do the leg lift. I mean, that's another thing that people notice. There's a lot of physical affect in my playing. I can't explain it other than I can tell you that it's all like completely legit. It's none of it's a put on. It's not. I'm not against showbiz, but none of that's showbiz. It's just me doing whatever I do. Right. Hey, Gail, how are you? Great to have you here. Greg Navins, how many beers can you drink? Not as many as you can. All right, Kevin. I'm not going to try to murder your last name, man, but if you can type in the comments, give me the pronunciation, I'll come back and say it. So good to have you here. I've heard Ernie Watts say embouchure should be consistent throughout the range. That is completely correct. So if you've seen the Altissimo video on my YouTube channel, it's also up on the Instagram channel and the Facebook page too. But so I can do that because not much changes here. There's little changes about like little changes in grip and how the air is directed, but the reason that goes on is because the air is just coming, right? And there's nothing in its way, and that's true low, high, soft, loud. So Hey, Nancy. See you later. Great to see you. John Ernesto, my buddy John from Reading, Pennsylvania. How are you, my friend? Great to have you here. All right, I hope you're doing well. Everything is well with me. I hope to see you. Hope to see you in April, John. All right. Francois, just curious, who are you listening to right now? Favorite modern player? Super good question. I mean, this is going to be a weird answer, but I've heard this guy in Germany, and it's Germany named Lutz Hofner, and I've heard some things of his that I just thought were, fantastic and beautiful. I mean, the playing and the music. So he might be the answer if I had to pick one. I mean, I really would hesitate to pick one. But that begs a whole interesting conversation. But I'll probably that might be an off the record conversation that we're not going to have here. But anyway, Neto, the greatest saxophone influences. So John Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley, Mike Brecker, David Sanborn, Stanley Turrentine was a big influence too, because I'm super into time feel. There's a whole thing about time feel, and kind of an overlooked thing about saxophone players is that that the heaviest guys have all kinds of identifiers on them, including their time. Like you can hear Stanley Turrentine, and part of the reason that it's Stanley Turrentine in about 4 notes is the way he hits time. It's the way he phrases, the way he lays back and forward on a rhythm section. No one else sounds like that in the way they play time. I mean, he's a really distinct guy that way. So he was really important too. And Hank Mobley at his best, I love like a legit, like a guy's just legit in that classic kind of like bebop, like later bebop kind of lane, and with just the vocabulary that's just dead in there. Sometimes when I hear myself back, I kind of get annoyed because you'll hear like there'll be some blues, then there'll be like a barrage of modern stuff, like some Mike Brecker kind of stuff, and then there'll be something that sounds like Hank or whatever, but it's not like unified. It's not centered in that way, and that's me. Those are my influences. But I love a legit thing like Stan Getz, right, in his way, just bam. Anyway, hey. Tim Lynn says, "Hey Andy, what makes a young player interesting to listen to for you?" Okay, so we'll keep this tight, but basically, I come from an era where rock and blues and jazz all kind of fused together and made like a really awesome, amazing, cool thing in saxophone to me, and that those elements like the swagger of blues and rock and roll, and just that attitude, the emotionalism. I'm not sure if that's a word, but like just kind of like laying it out there like that, right? From a heart on your sleeve, heart on the floor point of view, and I like that. And there's without any value judgment, like there's a fashion going on of late, I think, in the schools to kind of like go away from that, right? To focus more on the academic. And when I hear a young guy that is incorporating all of it, right, the academic stuff that he's interested in now, but also has some soul, right, and some swagger, and doesn't mind just like laying a big ass blues lick on the table, right, in the middle of his heady stuff. That's the kind of guy I like. And but it's all so matter of taste, right? And the fashion changes. So I recognize that the way I like things may not be like the fashion of the moment, but I'm very certain about how I like things to be. So for me, only speaking for me. Hey, Susan Brecker is in the house. Boom, boom. Hey, Susan. Mike, Susan knows this. Mike was just, this towering figure for so many of us, and a towering figure for me. The interesting story is that Mike Brecker is from the same little suburb of Pennsylvania that I came from, and I found out about him before I knew that, and then I think this, more or less, the story was my mother came to me one day and said, I think that guy that you like, that guy that you're interested in, I think his sister lives in, on such and such street. I went, what? Are you kidding me? Like, he's from here? So anyway, for many reasons, including that reason, he's just been the most important influence on every part of me. And anyway, it's thrilling to have Susan Brecker here. So hi, Susan. Nick Coleone in the house. What's up, brother? Miss playing with you, man. We got to get back to that. That's a whole nother combo. Hey, Joseph. What was it like playing with the Manhattan Jazz Quintet? I've transcribed a lot of your souls from those gigs and learned a lot from them. That's awesome. Thank you very much. I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, so in America, I don't get called for straight ahead gigs. That's how it is. We all kind of get ID'd and, put into a lane, and that's totally fine. There's so many players. You're gonna end up, the world's gonna end up having a thought about where you go. But in Japan, I was able to play with a straight ahead group, and a group that was very famous in Japan and not so much anywhere else in the world. But that's what Joseph is referring to, and it was fantastic to do that. It was great. I don't get to play all the things you are too much anywhere other than that than there. Lutz, Lutz is his first name, Javier. How do you spell that cat's name? Lutz. High heel. Miguel, how are you? Melodic for creating the phrases in the improvisation. So, Miguel, I was always a singer, right? Like, I always had melodicism in the way I improvised. And so I don't know how to, Kevin, got it. The K is silent. Thank you. I don't know how to answer like in terms of how you get that, but because it was just a thing that I did. And I think if you're approaching playing from the point of view of like singing, like what would you without your horn, could you sing the solo that you're trying to create or writing, right? Or performing? If you could, then it's like essentially melodic, necessarily melodic. But sorry, I don't have a better answer for that. Scott Solomon, will you and Chad ever play together on the Bodie gig? That's a good question. There probably have to be some extra money in the hopper that night, but I guess it's certainly possible. Oh, Adrian, thank you. I meant to say that. I was going to start the show with that. It's so awesome to be doing this on John Coltrane's birthday. So that's the other thing about Adrian's from Philadelphia. Hey, Adrian. And shout out to Philly because, look, Mike Brecker, born and raised in Philadelphia. John Coltrane, formative years in Philadelphia. So got something going on. I got like the last 0.8% or whatever was left there after those guys came through. Miguel. So the study of improvisation, the study of improvisation is there's a whole bunch of technical stuff that you'll be better off if you learn it. But above everything else is listening to the things that you love, listening to the players that you love, right? Transcribing them. If you get some technical knowledge, figure out what they do. Get their vocabulary and get their lines into you, right? And then get a bunch of different players' lines into you. And hopefully that goes into you and stirs around and, comes out with some identifiers that are you, that sound like you from a improvisatory vocabulary point of view. But listening to your heroes, that's it. That's the ball game. like learning how to speak a language. Listen to great speakers of the language. Hey, Antonio, thank you, man. Thanks for being here. I'd love to come to Brazil. There are no plans at the moment, Neto, but that'd be awesome. It's a beautiful country. I've been there with the Rolling Stones, so I haven't played in any small clubs. I've only played in football stadiums there. Love you too, Susan Brecker. Here's John Carlson. Hey, John, great to see you too. Yeah. So part of the reason I'm here is, John, is that, and we'll do that in subsequent shows. I've got a new record coming out on October 23rd. It's already being spun on XM Watercolors on Sirius XM. They picked it up in the first week, and I'm pretty psyched about it. It's cool productions, lots of interesting things flying around in the stereo field, and some tricky saxophone playing. So if you like that kind of thing, then you might like this record. But I'm pretty psyched about it. I think it came out pretty well. And usually at this point, there'd be a more self-loathing on what I just done. So that's a good sign, I hope. Adrian, it's Ray Charles' birthday. Awesome, Adrian. Jamie Hicks, one more question. Hard reads. When did you realize that size 4s were going to work? What were you using before? Was there an adjustment position? I've always used 2.5 to 3. So, I've been playing this basic thing. Like, it's kind of like it's more or less in an auto link, right? Like this mouthpiece. It doesn't look the same inside, but the way it is more or less the same. So I had a really good link when I was in college, and I ended up killing it and couldn't find one that was as good as that. And then I played a Van Doren V16 and then got on Jody's stuff, but it's all really basically in the link lane. And that 7-star 4 reed equation, like a good 4 reed, like not one that's stiff as a board on the sides, but one that's vibrating and pliant. That was always the win for me. And I kind of feel like, no one can tell you what that's supposed to be for you. It's your mouth, in your body, and you're going to know when you have a resonant equation. But that's it should be resonant. Like it should. Should be resonant. However you get there. Hey, Scott. Oh, man, thank you very much. Scott says, you've got my all-time favorite sax sound. You're an inspiration to go Yankees. I'm with you except the last bit because I'm from Philly. But great to see you, Scott. Here's Doug DeHayes. Can you talk a little bit about the guys who were with you at University of Miami? How much were you inspired and intimidated by them? A lot. So, Doug, that's touch on that briefly. It was just kind of like one of those things at that moment. In the early mid 80s, like Rick Margitza, Ed Kaye, myself, Mike Scaglione, Sal Giorgiani, Andy Middleton, Doug Moffitt. I know I'm missing some. There was just a whole bunch of really strong players there. In particular, and this will be an obvious thing, like when I got there, like Kaye, who was maybe 3 years older than me, he was way down the road on the Mike Brecker, like playing over rock and blues thing. I think I literally remember like seeing him. So he went, and he played that thing, right? Very famous Mike thing in some room. And I was like, what was that? But who is that, man? And then Rick Margitza was just like, unbelievably advanced. And an unbelievable talent with jazz harmony, right? With busting up jazz harmony and extending the 5-chord out and pattern playing, and he continues to be that way. Excuse me. He absolutely has a different level thing than the rest of us, like kind of a genius level thing with playing over harmony in a complex and very beautiful and melodic way. And that's the thing that Mike had and Rick has more of that than anyone else I've heard other than Mike. But Mike is the holy grail. Like Mike could play 10 tons of shit, right, at the speed of light, but it was melodic, right? And when he got done the phrase, he would just laugh because it was like, how could that be? How could you play that much shit technically perfect, right? And have me feeling like you just like sang a little melody to me. It's like mind-boggling. So anyway, the guys at school were super important. I learned as much from them, or maybe more than the instructors. Honestly, just having that talent pool around was like a little, like a little burning fire. Love you too, Susan. Again. So Passion 613 says, what tenor do you use? So I have a Trevor James that I really love, and I have this Mark VI, which I really, really love. I can't, those two instruments, I'm good. I've got everything I need for home, road. Here's Joe Cooper. Hey, Joe, how are you, man? Good to see you. What was your favorite about touring with the Stones and Paul Simon? So touring with the Stones was like, it's bigger than life. I don't know how to describe it. It was just like a traveling city, right? And it was just so incredible from the experience point of view. I wasn't doing a lot musically, but just seeing like the rock and roll business at its most like organized, corporate, biggest, lockdown, precision army like way was an amazing thing to see. And Paul Simon was that the band that he assembled, like his gift with assembling people into a band and from different walks of life and different musical styles and making this a kind of a unique ensemble out of it. That was an amazing thing to witness his gift. So very different experiences, but overall, the Paul experience was the most meaningful from a variety of different ways. But I learned from him the fact that I was in the chair that Mike Brecker had previously held. All right, Antonio, what reed number are you using? Rico 4, Rico Orange Box 4. Not sexy, but it works. I've works for me. Hey, Roxy, what's up? Hey, Chris. John, what was in the water at the University of Miami? Yeah, I don't know. Just one of those things. It was just kind of it's hard to explain what happened there, but it was, I guess they still talk about that time period for some reason, like all this young saxophone talent just descended on the place at the same time. And it was, I wouldn't be me without that experience. It was really, really powerful experience. So Adrian, playing with the South African artists who lived through apartheid. How meaningful. Absolutely. I mean, that's just knowing those people. And like, for instance, Bagiti Kumalo, who still plays bass with Paul, he like grew up in Soweto, right? He grew up in Soweto and got out of there to play bass with Paul Simon. And he's a beautiful spirit. And just like meeting people like that from across the earth, like literally from a completely different thing in every possible way, an amazing experience. So you're right about that, Adrian. Kyle, what's up? How are you, my brother? Go University of Miami. All right. You still talk about, yeah, it was a crazy thing what happened down there. So Mark Gomez, more tunes on soprano. Okay, so Mark, the new album, which I'll be pumping up in the coming weeks. I've got 2 tunes on soprano, 2 tunes on alto, 6 tunes on tenor. So the 2 soprano tunes I'm really a fan of, and I mean, I'm a fan of all. I'm really proud of this record, Higher, coming out October 23rd, and all 3 horns on it, and I think they're all well represented. So again, I'm not doing enough of this, but follow me on Instagram, follow the YouTube channel, check out the videos. I'll be doing lots of instructional stuff, and for you saxophone players and anyone else that wants to watch instructional stuff for the saxophone, if you're not a saxophone player. I'll be breaking out a bunch of videos on that front. So, Javier, what did I like about the Ishimori? That's a great horn too. Just at the end of the day, like for me, the Mark VI is the Porsche, right? That's the little sports car, and if I'm involved with playing, if I have to play fast, if I'm going to fly around, that's part of the gig, and that is part of the gig with Chris Bodie. Like I've got to play this horn because everything else falls off. Like that combination of quick but light spring action. However they did that on the Mark VI, that's the holy grail of that for me, right? Light but fast, light but quick. Everything pops back. You know, the horn isn't slowing you down either through its own size or the nature of the spring action. So, but anyway, the Ishimori it's a great saxophone. Just doesn't have that sports car thing that I seek. So, hey Zay, how are you? I talked about my favorites in jazz, but in sax pop, which pop saxophone. So, you know, I guess I'd put Dave Sanborn in that category. If we're talking about, I'm going to try to interpret your question, and if I don't get it right, give me a little bit more detail. But you know, in contemporary jazz, like the current state of it, you know, I love Kirk, Gerald Albright, Eric Marienthal, my good buddy Everett Harp. You know, those are the players that I feel like I have the most kinship with. And look, I end up feeling the most kinship with people that have kind of done more study, right? Kind of like immersed in the study of the thing more fervently, because that's what I did. So it's that kind of just that feels right. But anyway, those are some of the people that I like. Skip Spratt. When I interviewed you for Saxophone Journal, we talked about your transition from Wall Street to fully freelancing in the studio and elsewhere. Maybe share a bit of that transition here. Yeah. So look, I mean, and again, this is all personal business, right? Like I was a guy, like I felt comfortable with the idea of a backup plan, right? I felt like that was the right thing for me to do, was to have a backup plan. I was good at school, right? Good at math, and that made sense. There are other people that will say, under no circumstances have a backup plan, right? Like that's going to mess you up and cause you to not like fight for the thing you want in an unrelenting kind of way. So I feel like you kind of you have to figure out who you are that way, which person you are. Like I know people literally that they did 3.5 years of college, dropped out in their final semester, right? And moved to New York without the degree. And to me, that's like, what? You know, like, how would you ever decide to do that? But for those people, and some of them that I'm referring to have been very, very successful, like that was the thing that made sense, right? So I could never say it's one or the other, but for me, I wanted to have a backup plan. And basically the transition was just about like, you know, to my conservative self, I eventually got the message like, hey man, you know, like New York is going to receive you and you're going to be able to do this. Like I never would have imagined that it would have gone quite as well as it has, right? Like I didn't think any of that at the time, but I did think I could probably quit this job. I can probably make a living like doing music. So let's try it. Let's see where it goes, right? And luckily in my case, it just did that, right? So but the transition point was really just like getting to that point where I felt like, yeah, I think I could do this and you know, not completely fall on my ass, right? So all right, Annabelle, good to see you. It's my pleasure, my friend. Take care of yourself. Liz, you know, I think so. I'm going to get that answer and come back to you in a private way. All right. I think the answer is yes. Here's Lori. what has a typical day been like for you over the last few months with all the tours falling off due to the pandemic? The silver lining is that I fast tracked this record. Like if Chris Bodie was still touring in the same density that he usually does, I'd be a year away from finishing right now. And I'm done and it's coming out. So that's the great news. Everybody misses playing. Everybody's worried about what's going to happen in the music business. And, basically like, can the structure of it hold on long enough, right? Stay in place while this is going on so that when this is over, it's there to come back to. That's really what it's all about. And hopefully that it doesn't go the other way. Hopefully the infrastructure really is what I mean to say can remain until we get back. I love that. Hey, Adrian, that was a great night out. Daniel, okay, so I have word from the guru behind the scenes, Liz, that the show will be on YouTube after the show ends. So if anybody wants to see it after it's done, it's not a Snapchat thing. Like it's going to continue to exist apparently. So you can pass that along. All right. Well, I guess we're about an hour. Roxy, no tunes on Barry. No tunes on Barry. I'm sorry. I need to be better, frankly. So I've got one. Let me shed that before the next album, and maybe I can get something done that way. That's actually a good challenge to do a tune on baritone on a record before I'm done. Anyway, I think any other saxophone player questions out there? Reeds, mouthpieces, air, embouchure, throat. If not, I'm going to say thanks to everyone for stopping by. It's been an awesome experience, and thanks for making this a good first time out. I was frankly a little nervous about what it would be like, and it's gone better than I expected. So that's awesome news, and thanks to all of you for being part of that and making that happen for me. So once again, Instagram, official YouTube channel, Facebook fan page, and we'll be rolling out the record. October 23rd is the release of Higher. And Roxy, real quick, the baritone is a Moriat from when I endorsed Moriat about 7-8 years ago, something like that. It's a good horn. I like it, but I'm no crusher on it, right? I'm not going to play it for you yet. So anyway, all right, everyone. Great to see you all. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. All right.